Hi, I'm Rowena. I spent over 3 months saving $8,000 to plan my mother's birthday trip. Every detail, every dollar for her. And yet, on the second day, right in front of strangers, she looked at me and said, "Stop ruining the trip with your sister. Just leave." So I did. No one chased after me. No one checked if I got home safe. But the next day, they came back. Wet with regret, like that could fix what they'd erased. They didn't just forget me. They rewrote the whole story without me. What makes a mother choose applause over her own daughter? I arrived at Azure Tide's beachfront villas, clutching the folder that held every detail of the trip. My mother's 60th. I'd been planning it for 3 months, saving up every penny that didn't go to rent, food, or my self-employment taxes. $7,800. I was proud, quietly. Not in the way my sister Callista would have announced it online with a countdown and a playlist. The resort was just as I'd imagined it. Towering palms swaying, a front desk lined with white orchids, and windows wide open to the sea breeze. I glanced at Mom as we walked in. Her eyes lit up. That flicker, that tiny moment of wonder. I told myself it had been worth it. "This is beautiful," she said, scanning the lobby with a mix of delight and surprise. "I thought you'd like it," I replied, careful to keep my voice neutral. I didn't want to make it about me. Then the man behind the front desk smiled at us. "Welcome, ladies. And you must be the personal assistant?" It took a second to register. He was looking directly at me. Callista chuckled. "No, she's my sister." The concierge blinked, then corrected himself smoothly. "Of course. Apologies." Mom didn't say anything, just gave a tight smile. I forced out a polite nod. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I looked capable. That's not a crime. Maybe it wasn't a comment on my position in the family. Maybe. Our suite was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling glass, white linens, a balcony that made you forget your life had ever included traffic and bills. I watched as Callista squealed over the vanity lighting. Mom wandered toward the mini fridge. I slipped out to arrange the birthday welcome basket, with the front desk, fruit, wine, and a handwritten card I'd spent an hour rewriting for tone. By evening, we were dressed up for dinner at the restaurant I had researched obsessively. Allergy-friendly, wheelchair-accessible, with live music, and an early reservation so Mom wouldn't get tired. We took pictures by the patio fire pit, and I thought, this is what family looks like. Until I saw the Instagram post. Callista had uploaded a photo before the appetizers had even arrived. She and Mom mid-laugh. The caption read, "Birthday bliss with the woman who gave me everything I wasn't tagged." Worse, I wasn't in the photo, or at least not fully. The angle cut me off at the elbow. I was just a sliver of hair, a half shadow, like I'd stumbled into their moment and didn't belong. I stared at the screen, backlit by candles and the soft clinking of silverware. I could have been anywhere, with anyone. But in that frame, I wasn't. I didn't say anything, not then. I told myself it was an accident, a rushed upload. I even laughed, quietly, to make it easier for myself. Back at the suite, as Mom took off her shoes and Callista posted a story of her spritzer, I tried again. "That was a cute picture," I said casually. Callista didn't look up. "Oh yeah, we looked great, right?" Mom gave a distracted and moved into the bedroom without another word. I sat on the edge of my bed, scrolling through old photos. High school, college, family weddings. I was always in the edge of the frame. Sometimes behind someone else's head. Sometimes not at all. Maybe it wasn't new. Maybe I had always been in the periphery, and I just didn't want to see it. I set my phone down face first on the nightstand. The room was too quiet. Even the air conditioning felt loud. I stared at the ceiling fan, not turning. It's day one, and I already feel like I brought myself to disappear. Dinner that evening was meant to be the crown jewel of the day. I had reserved a private table right on the sand, just a few feet from where the tide brushed the shoreline. The candles I'd ordered had our initials etched into them. V for Velda, C for Callista, and mine. Subtly carved in the center, smaller, but there. A detail no one but me would notice. I wore the navy blue dress Mom once complimented when I was 26 and about to pitch my first campaign. She'd said I looked sharp enough to sell a skyscraper. I never forgot that. Tonight, I didn't need to sell anything. I just wanted her to see me. The dinner began with laughter. The soft kind. The kind that teases you into believing things are okay. Zinnia had joined us, sipping wine like she belonged in every family photo. I kept checking Mom's face. She looked relaxed, happy even. I held on to that like a child, holding the last thread of a balloon. Then came the toast. It started with a nudge from Callista, who always knew how to steer the spotlight without looking like she wanted it. "Say something, Mom," she whispered, hand on Mom's wrist. Mom rose slowly, glass in hand. "To Callista and Zinnia," she began, her voice warm, "for organizing this beautiful moment. I've never felt so spoiled." My wine glass froze inches from my lips. I smiled, because that's what I do. My name never came. Zinnia beamed. Callista touched her chest like she'd just received an award. No one noticed the flicker on my face. No one paused to wonder if the woman who handled the payments, the logistics, the allergies, the candle inscriptions, if she was acknowledged. I looked away and let the ocean breeze carry whatever was left of my pride. After the plates were cleared, Zinnia pulled out a portable projector. "A little something to surprise you, Velda," she chirped. "A visual love letter." The screen lit up against the palm trees. Clips rolled, footage I recognized instantly. It was my work, the pacing, the transitions, the music I'd chosen to fit each day of the itinerary. Even the intro graphic, a slow zoom on a photo of Mom from 1984, was mine. I'd spent 3 late nights pulling it together. At the end, the credits rolled, edited by Callista Goff and Zinnia P. It hit harder than the toast. My body remained perfectly still. I didn't say a word. Inside, something rearranged itself, like a room I no longer lived in, but still paid rent on. Later, as we walked back to the suite, I broke the silence just enough to let the truth hang. "Hey," I said, my tone neutral. "Did you use the video I put together?" Callista turned, eyes wide like I'd asked if the sun was real. "You mean our memories? Don't be weird about it, Ro. We're family." I stared out at the waves instead of responding. I wasn't going to fight. Not here. Not on this beach. Not over a video. When we reached the suite, they laughed about something. Probably Zinnia's story about her influencer trip to Tulum and her allergy to ordinary things. I went to the balcony barefoot. Let the wood planks cool the burn in my chest. They weren't stealing memories. They were rewriting them. I woke up to the smell of brewed coffee, but I hadn't made it. The sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains, soft and deceptive. For a second, I let myself pretend it would be a better day. I reached for my phone, thinking I'd double-check our lunch reservation. The resort app opened smoothly, but when I looked under Your Upcoming Activities, the section was blank. Strange. I backed out, tried checking the reservation status for our suite. My name was gone. It now read, "Primary guest, Callista Goff." I stared at the screen, blinking twice. Then again. Nothing changed. At the front desk, the woman smiled politely while typing away. "Can I help you with something, Ms. Walker?" "Yes. I just noticed my name isn't listed as the main guest anymore." "I'm the one who made all the bookings," I said, trying to keep my tone light. She hesitated. "The reservation was updated yesterday by another guest on file. Ms. Goff had access through the confirmation email linked to the account." "That's not possible. I paid for this trip." "I understand, but we can only go by the information provided and the access credentials used to amend it." I stood there, fingers tightening around my phone, jaw clenched just enough to feel it in my temples. Behind me, I heard a couple checking in, gushing about their anniversary upgrade. Meanwhile, I, who had spent hours organizing logistics, choosing restaurants, customizing wellness packages, had been erased with a few keystrokes. Walking away from the desk, I didn't know where to go. So I sat on one of the white lounge chairs facing the ocean and let the breeze do the talking. 3 weeks ago, at the airport back in Austin, James had said something that kept replaying in my mind now. "Don't overdo for people who forget fast," he'd told me, his tone not bitter, just experienced. I laughed it off back then. It's not about what they give back, it's about showing up. "Even if showing up means you end up invisible?" he asked. I didn't answer. I just hugged him goodbye and ran to my gate, the folder of printouts nearly spilling from my tote. Back in the present, I returned to the suite. The door was propped open. Callista was on the balcony in her robe, chatting with someone on speakerphone. "Yeah, the trip's going great. Totally got it handled. I just had to step in, you know?" Velda sat at the dining table, scrolling through her phone. Zinnia leaned over her shoulder, showing a picture. "We'll need to print this one," Mom said with a chuckle. I stood there a moment longer than I should have. Breakfast was served. Avocado toast, fruit, and pastries I had pre-selected through the resort app. No one said thank you, not out of malice. Just, no one noticed it had been arranged. I watched them eat, talk, laugh, and I started to feel like a corporate sponsor who had lost rights to their own event. Later that morning, I knocked on Callista's door. "Hey, can I get the itinerary folder back?" She smiled, pulling it from her bag. "Oh, right. You want to double-check the spa stuff?" I didn't answer. I just looked down at the folder. It had a new cover sheet. Callista's plan, Miami 25. My handwriting was gone. She handed it to me like I was being dramatic for even asking. I didn't argue. I didn't correct her. I just nodded, took it, and walked back to my room. Alone, I flipped through the pages. The structure was still mine. Color-coded tabs, emergency contacts, dietary restrictions. But the soul, the credit, gone. It's not just that they took over the trip. When they rewrite the credits, they forget you were the one who built the stage. I was halfway through my second coffee of the day when the buzz came through. A short vibration, followed by the kind of text that made your chest tighten. Not from fear, but from a sharp clarity. "Unusual activity detected. 34216 charged at Azure Spa Miami." I stared at the message for a full minute, thinking maybe it had been sent by mistake. But I knew better. I hadn't been to the spa, hadn't booked anything, hadn't even stepped into that wing of the resort. Opening the banking app confirmed it. The card I'd used for this entire trip, the one I told myself I'd keep just for emergencies, now that everything was prepaid, it had been used by someone else. A manual check of the itemized charges showed exactly what I feared. Facials, massages, body treatments, signed under my name. My hand tightened around the phone, my thumb hovering over the dispute button before I pulled back. I wanted the truth before the system flagged it as fraud. I walked across the resort lobby, past families posing for pictures, and honeymooners still drunk on newness. The open cafe near the palm fountain was buzzing with laughter. And there they were, Velda, Callista, and Zinnia, tucked into a corner booth with smoothies and oversized sunglasses. Mom was giggling at something Zinnia had just said. My seat at the table was empty. I approached quietly, letting the shadow of my presence do the talking. No one noticed until I was close enough to smell the citrus lotion from their spa visit. "Did you use my card this afternoon?" I asked, eyes directly on Velda. She blinked at me, brows lifting as if I'd interrupted a sitcom. "Oh, yes, sweetie. It was just the spa. I assumed, you said you were covering the trip." Callista added with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "You've got that tech salary. This is nothing to you, right?" It wasn't about the money. It never was. "It's not about the amount," I said evenly. "It's about not being asked." Velda sighed and leaned back. "You always handle things. You're just good at that." There was no thank you, no apology, just an expectation so deeply built into them, they didn't see it anymore. Good at being invisible, good at paying, good at being last. I nodded once, slowly. Then I turned and walked away, not to storm out, but to breathe without the weight of being tolerated. As I passed the lobby florist, someone called out, "Velda!" I turned instinctively. An older woman in a blue linen dress approached our table. Mrs. Harper, one of Mom's old friends from her community college days. "I thought that was you," she beamed. "This must be your older daughter, and your friend. But where's your other daughter, the younger one? Rowena, right?" Velda hesitated. "She's around here somewhere." I didn't stop walking, but I caught the crack in her voice. Not embarrassment over what she'd done, just the sudden realization that someone had noticed, that someone had expected me to matter. By the time I got back to the suite, my body was moving before my mind could catch up. I pulled Velda aside in the hallway, just as she was stepping in to change. "I need to say this once," I said. "This trip, I didn't do it to impress anyone. I did it because I wanted to believe something was left between us. I planned every hour hoping we'd reconnect. Not for you to treat me like your manager or your wallet." Velda looked at me, then away. "You're being dramatic. We're all just trying to enjoy ourselves." I shook my head. "Enjoyment that forgets where it came from isn't worth remembering." Her silence told me everything. I walked back to my room, sat on the bed, and opened my banking app. The charge still glowed on the screen. I hit lock card. Then I shut the door behind me. The next time they take something from me, they'll feel the loss. The room was still, the kind of stillness that doesn't settle but vibrates under your skin. I'd stepped away from everyone after locking my card, needing the solitude, needing air. Now, back in the suite, I checked my phone out of habit more than curiosity. A red dot blinked on the family group chat. That wasn't normal. My finger tapped it open. There it was. A voice recording had been uploaded. 64 seconds. Time-stamped. Attached to my name. My heart dropped into my stomach. The audio started with my own voice, steady, collected, asking Mom if she had used my credit card without asking. Her reply, dismissive and careless, followed. Then Callista's mocking laugh and her snide comment about my income. And finally, my response. Tight. Controlled. But edged with something raw. I hadn't uploaded it, but the cloud backup app I used must have synced automatically and dropped it in. My stomach twisted. That setting I always meant to change. That automatic folder. The chat was quiet. Not one message after the file, just seen. I didn't have time to guess who would say what first. The door to the suite flew open. Callista walked in like she was coming for a prize fight. "What the hell, Ro? You recorded Mom?" Velda followed, less heat but more offense. "You made me sound like I was taking advantage. That was private." I stood still, arms crossed. "So was my card. So was this whole trip, until it turned into your PR campaign." Zinnia lingered behind them, silent for once. Callista scoffed. "It's always like this with you, always making things more dramatic than they are." I kept my voice even. "It's not dramatic to expect respect, or honesty." No apologies came, just more noise. More shifting of blame onto the person who simply dared to keep receipts, literal and otherwise. Then, out of nowhere, a softer voice pierced the chaos. "Mom! Did Auntie Ro stop liking us?" We all froze. Callista's son stood in the hallway, clutching a stuffed animal. His eyes were wide and tired. The innocence in his voice hurt more than anything his mother had said. Velda looked away. Callista's face flattened. I knelt beside him, brushing a hand over his shoulder. "Sometimes grown-ups just need space to breathe, sweetheart. It's not about liking. It's about air." He nodded slowly, like he wasn't sure but trusted me anyway. No one said another word as I stood and walked to the door. I needed to move. Away. Somewhere. The beach was quieter at night, just the shuffle of waves folding into the shore. I walked toward the edge of the water, sand cool beneath my feet. My dress clung slightly from the humidity. I screamed once, just once, not out of rage, but to make sure I still had a voice. Then I sat. Maybe this wasn't a family trip. Maybe I was just a contractor, logistics, finance, emotional cleanup, brought in to handle the mess, but not expected to sit at the table when it mattered. I stared out over the water for what could have been minutes or hours. Eventually, I stood and returned to the resort. I didn't go straight to the room. Instead, I walked into the business center, logged in, and printed a fresh copy of the itinerary. I stapled it neatly and wrote one line on the cover. Remaining plans. Execute without me. Back in the suite, everyone was in their own corners. Callista on the balcony with a glass of wine. Velda watching the news without the volume. I placed the folder on the coffee table without a sound. No notes, no explanation. Just clarity. Just the structure I always provided, while being left out of the story. I packed quietly, each fold deliberate. Each zipper a line I was drawing between what I had allowed and what I wouldn't tolerate anymore. Outside, Callista's laughter echoed into the hallway. If I'm going to be invisible, I'll leave before they forget they ever saw me. The salt air had lost its charm by then. Even the rhythmic sound of the ocean, which once felt calming, had turned hollow. That evening, the plan had been clear. Sunset boat cruise, dinner after. The itinerary had been confirmed weeks in advance, printed, laminated, and handed out on day one. Instead, they wanted to go to Zinnia's beach party. It's a once-in-a-lifetime crowd, Callista said, already halfway into her heels. You'll love it if you just stop being so strict. I already paid for the cruise, I reminded her, not for the first time. It's non-refundable. Velda, applying lipstick in the mirror, didn't look up. You're ruining the mood again. Just let your sister enjoy herself. I was stunned, again, but this time not surprised. You know what? She added, with an exasperated wave of her hand. Stop ruining the trip with your sister. Just leave. The words hung there, sharp, echoing slightly in the tiled hallway outside the hotel lounge. A nearby couple looked over from their table. Someone tilted their phone screen away like they hadn't been reading a group chat. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice. I just smiled. All right, I said, I will. I turned and walked toward the elevators. I didn't hear her call after me. I didn't expect her to. Back in the suite, I moved like I had a blueprint. I zipped open my suitcase and began folding clothes with quiet precision. Shirts, shoes, chargers, swimsuit never worn. Each item placed exactly where it belonged. Then I went to the folder, opened the drawer where I kept the hard copy backups, restaurant confirmations, transport codes, weather contingency notes. I relabeled the folder. Remaining itinerary, use freely. Slipped in the laminated schedule. No notes, no emotion, just facts. Then I pulled a blank note card from the desk drawer. In clean block letters, I wrote, Enjoy it all. I placed it on top of the folder and slipped it into a large envelope. A few minutes later, I was at the concierge desk. The man on shift, Luis, remembered me from when I'd arranged Mom's birthday breakfast. He looked up, surprised. Ms. Walker, everything all right? I handed him the envelope. Please make sure this gets to my mother's room. It's what's left of my effort. He blinked. Would you like me to walk it up now? I shook my head. No rush. Just don't lose it. He started to say something else, maybe a gesture of sympathy, but I'd already turned to leave. I didn't need comfort. I needed closure. Outside, the night had fallen fully. The moon sat low, just above the waterline. I stood at the edge of the resort driveway, suitcase by my side, Uber app open. The car was 10 minutes away. 10 minutes in which no one called, no one texted, no one ran down after me. And still, I didn't cry. I watched the tide slide in and out from where I stood. That beach had once felt full of promise. Now it just looked generic, like a stock photo. You don't always slam the door, I whispered to myself. Sometimes you lock it quietly behind you. The Uber pulled in, headlights washing over the stone path. The driver asked my name. I nodded. On the ride to the airport, I typed a message. Then deleted it. Typed it again, left it in drafts. You told me to leave, so I did. And I took my presents with me. They woke up to silence. No coffee bubbling on the counter. No breakfast order slips clipped to the door. No printed schedules waiting on the console table like they had been the last 2 mornings. The suite, suddenly, felt too big. And empty in a way none of them expected. Callista, still half asleep, padded through the living area barefoot, looking around like someone had misplaced their phone. Velda flipped through a resort binder, murmuring, "Where's the spa schedule?" As if it would materialize out of guilt. Zinnia wandered out in a bright cover-up, sunglasses already on. "Did she seriously not leave the plan?" she asked, her voice rising with each word. But on the coffee table sat the folder, plain and professional, labeled in clean handwriting. "Remaining itinerary, use freely." Callista picked it up with 2 fingers, as if it might bite. "She actually walked away," she whispered. Velda sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. She always made it look easier than it was. They tried to salvage the day. Zinnia, always full of solutions, suggested last-minute lunch plans and an influencer-friendly yoga class on the beach. But everything required pre-booking. Everything required the quiet, tireless labor Rowena had always done in the background. Callista's phone buzzed. Then again. And again. She opened her DMs and froze. "Where's Rowena? Didn't she organize this whole thing?" "I saw her post that itinerary folder. Y'all okay?" Velda's phone pinged too. A message from her sister back in Atlanta. "I hope you didn't let that girl walk out alone after all she did." Meanwhile, Rowena sat in the back seat of a cab, watching Miami's skyline blur. She hadn't planned to open her messages, but her finger hit the wrong thread. It was an old group chat. Just her, Callista, and Zinnia. The thread she had muted weeks ago. A message popped up in the history, dated before the trip even began. "Let's hijack the trip," Zinnia had typed. "She's annoying when she's in control," Callista replied. Rowena stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over it. Then she screenshot it, emailed it to herself, deleted the chat. She didn't cry, didn't flinch, just archived the evidence of what she already knew. It was never about being wanted, only about being used. Back at the resort, things continued to unravel. Amber, Zinnia's glamorous beach friend, arrived mid-morning in a gauzy dress and $1,000 sunglasses. She sipped her mimosa and asked casually, "Where's your sister? Isn't she the one with the card on file?" Callista looked at Velda, then back to Amber. "She's not here." Amber narrowed her eyes. "Wait, who's paying for the bottle service?" Zinnia opened her mouth but had no answer. Amber stood. "Yeah, I'm gonna dip. Text me if anything changes." Callista watched her go, stunned into silence. For once, there was no quip, no comeback. By evening, Velda wandered back to the suite alone. The hotel staff barely looked up when she entered the lobby. Luis, the concierge, offered a polite nod, but nothing more. No warm smile, no small talk. It felt colder without Rowena. She was realizing that wasn't coincidence. Back in the room, the lights were too bright. The AC too loud. Velda sat on the edge of the bed and let her hands fall into her lap. She didn't speak. She didn't move. Something cracked inside her, quietly, like a door left ajar for too long. That night, Callista lay in bed scrolling through Instagram, refreshing over and over again. No new messages from Rowena. No scene receipts. No reactions. She turned toward the darkness and asked, almost to herself, "Do you think she's really not coming back?" Velda answered without looking up. "I don't think she was ever planning to stay. Lunch was supposed to be elegant, white linens, seafood flown in fresh, and a view of the shoreline that had made it onto postcards. But by midday, the only thing memorable about that table was the awkward shuffle of Velda's purse, under the scrutiny of a stern-faced server. She had tried to charge the meal to the room. "Room 604, she'd said, voice tight but certain. But the card didn't go through. "I'm sorry, ma'am," the server repeated. "This reservation is no longer connected to a valid payment method. We'll need another card." Velda blinked like she hadn't heard. Callista didn't look up from her phone. Zinnia kept sipping her sangria like it was someone else's problem. Velda fumbled in her bag, pulled out her own card. It took 2 tries before the chip finally processed. The room had gone quiet. Tables nearby were listening. One woman near the window was clearly recording something with her phone half hidden under a napkin. The manager approached, offered a tight, practiced smile. "Let us know if you need assistance verifying the account." No, Velda said, brushing it off with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Just a little mix-up." Afterward, no one said much as they left. Callista was typing furiously into her phone. Zinnia checked her lipstick in a compact mirror. Velda stayed behind to thank the staff and walked back slower than usual. Later that evening, Callista posted a throwback photo on her feed, one from years ago. Just her and Velda, arms linked at a holiday party. The caption read, "We've had our ups and downs, but it's always been us." Rowena wasn't in the photo, wasn't tagged, wasn't even acknowledged. Within 15 minutes, the comments started rolling in. "Didn't Rowena organize this trip? Pretty tone-deaf, don't you think? Where is your sister? She okay?" A cousin from Denver commented, "Rowena there with y'all, or?" Callista deleted the post, reposted the photo with no caption this time. But the algorithm had already caught it. Screenshots circulated. Subtle outrage began brewing under the glossy surface of their curated vacation. In the suite, Velda sat staring at her phone. She opened a message thread she hadn't touched in days. She typed, "We're getting a lot of questions. Can we talk?" She hit send. The message turned blue. Delivered, not read. Meanwhile, across the city, Rowena opened her Notes app. Scrolled through a folder labeled Miami Plans. She selected one photo, just a still shot of the itinerary she had printed on day 1. Her name was clearly at the bottom, Planner Rowena Walker. She uploaded it to Instagram with a caption that said everything without needing explanation. Invisible hands built it all. Within an hour, it had been shared dozens of times. The comment section was flooded. Damn. Respect. Family always finds a way to erase the one holding the camera. That post spread faster than anything she'd ever shared. Back in the suite, Velda refreshed her feed. Her expression slowly caved in on itself. Callista, pacing now, tried to defend herself aloud. "She's manipulating the narrative. People don't even know the full story." Velda didn't respond, because deep down, she knew Rowena hadn't created a narrative. She had simply stopped hiding the truth. Rowena turned off her phone, placed it face down on the hotel desk in her short-term rental. She poured a glass of water, took a breath, and whispered to no one. Now they see. Luis at the front desk was polite, as always. But this morning, his eyes held something quieter. When Velda walked up, trying to mask the anxiety behind her blazer and lipstick, he already seemed to know what she was going to ask. "I'm here to settle the remaining spa charges and check if we still have dinner reservations for tonight," she said, voice softer than usual. Luis nodded once, then tapped a few keys on his screen. "Of course, Ms. Walker. May I confirm the guest name?" She hesitated. "Rowena Walker. Though I suppose she's no longer on the reservation." Luis didn't correct her. Instead, he turned the monitor slightly. On the screen was a paused frame, security footage from early morning 2 days ago. Rowena, alone, pulling a small suitcase behind her. Her posture straight, face unreadable, hair pulled back in a way Velda hadn't seen in years. The video played. No dramatics, no turning around. Just the front door sliding open, Rowena walking past, and the hotel's automatic lights dimming behind her. She left at 6:14 a.m., Louise said gently. Velda nodded once. Her throat was too tight to speak. Louise glanced down. She asked us to take care of everything, like she always did. The screen went black. No more evidence needed. Velda didn't thank him, couldn't. She simply turned and walked to the lounge, where she sank into a chair and stared at the empty pool. An hour later, Callista returned from the beach with wet hair and a towel around her shoulders. She dropped her phone on the table with a huff. Room service took forever. Nobody knew what reservation the massages were under. It's like everything's broken now. Velda didn't respond. Callista continued, muttering more to herself. Everything used to run smoother. Velda watched a toddler at the next table eat watermelon with both hands. The child's mother laughed, cleaning up juice with a napkin. There was care in that moment. Undistracted care. Back in the suite, Velda reached for the folder Rowena had left. It was heavier than she remembered. She sat down and opened it slowly, page by page. Each document had colored tabs: yellow for prepaid activities, green for alternate options, pink for dietary accommodations. Velda traced her fingers along the margins, where Rowena had scribbled notes. Mom doesn't like too much garlic. Ask chef ahead of time. Callista's allergy. Confirm with waiter. Velda prefers indoor seating if above 82 degrees. She hadn't just planned a trip. She had mapped every corner of their comfort. At the very back of the folder was a small sticky note. If something goes wrong, ask for Luis. He knows everything. No signature, no sarcasm, just clarity, preparedness, love unadorned. Velda held the note in both hands like it might dissolve if she blinked. Outside, the cabana Rowena had reserved remained untouched. No towels laid out, no drinks ordered. The shade structure stood empty in the sun, like it was waiting for someone who would never return. Velda whispered to herself, not out of grief, not out of nostalgia, but from a place she hadn't let herself feel in years. She didn't leave us. She covered for us, even when we weren't worth it. By evening, the air at the resort had thickened with the kind of tension you couldn't name, but felt. It clung to the corners of the lounge and slid across Velda's skin as she and Callista approached the spa desk. Callista smiled at the receptionist. We'd like to book the Sunset Serenity package, for 2. The receptionist tapped a few keys. Of course, may I have your room number? 604, Callista replied without missing a beat. More tapping, then a pause. The receptionist looked up. I'm sorry, but the reservation for that room has been frozen. Callista blinked. What do you mean, frozen? The card on file, under Miss Rowena Walker, was removed from the account. At her request, we're unable to process new charges without updated payment details. Velda's breath caught in her throat. The woman offered a polite smile. Would you like us to reach out to her for authorization? Callista didn't answer. She turned to Velda. Did you know about this? Velda shook her head. Zinnia walked in just in time to catch the tail end of the conversation. Didn't you say this was your treat? She asked, eyebrows raised. Callista's voice dropped. It was supposed to be. They walked away from the desk in silence. Later, back in the suite, Velda tried again. This time, not out of pride, but necessity. She opened her phone, scrolled to Rowena's name, and typed, Can we talk? No reply. So she called. A single ring. Then the automated message. This number is not accepting calls at this time. She let the silence ring louder than the rejection. Set the phone down without another word. In the next room, Callista had retreated to the balcony, her expression tight behind oversized sunglasses. Inside, Velda opened the folder Rowena had left. She had opened it before, but never truly read it. This time, she did. She turned page after page. Every reservation had a backup plan. Every meal included notations about allergies, preferences, time constraints. There were weather contingency options, contact info for backup drivers, and annotations like add birthday candle to dessert. quiet surprise only. Velda felt her eyes sting. She thought of everything, for us, she whispered. Online, things were spiraling. Rowena's post from the night before, just a photo of the itinerary folder, was being shared across feeds and stories. The caption, "Invisible hands built it all." Hundreds of comments rolled in. "I'm Rowena in my family." "I planned my parents' anniversary and they thanked my brother." "She doesn't owe them anything." Callista scrolled through the flood of replies in silence. She didn't reply to any of them. She didn't try to defend herself. For once, she had nothing. Velda stared at her phone, then back at the sticky note tucked in the folder. It read, "If something goes wrong, ask for Luis. He knows everything." That was the last straw, not because it was dramatic, but because it wasn't. It was ordinary, practical, and in that, it was devastating. Velda opened her message thread with Rowena once more. She typed slowly, thoughtfully. "You didn't deserve that. We see it now. I hope it's not too late." She hit send. The screen showed one simple word. Delivered. They didn't call, didn't text, didn't warn me. I heard the knock before I saw them. 2 sharp taps, then silence. Through the peephole, Velda and Callista stood side by side on the landing of my apartment building. No suitcases, no gifts, no frantic explanations. Just themselves and whatever version of guilt had pushed them across state lines. I didn't open the door right away. I watched them shift their weight, unsure whether to knock again. Then, I turned the knob. I didn't say hello, just stepped back enough to let them in. The apartment smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and last night's takeout. It was quiet, save for the whir of the ceiling fan and the occasional car rolling past outside. I motioned to the couch. They sat. I walked to the kitchen, made tea without asking, because asking would imply something soft still existed between us. We sat in the living room, with cups cradled in our hands like lifelines. No one spoke. Velda finally broke the silence. Her voice cracked like a windshield under pressure. "We came back early." Callista, eyes on her mug, added, "We messed up, badly." I didn't reply. I let the words float, hang, settle. The silence hurt more than yelling ever could. I poured more tea. Velda tried again. "We see it now, what you did, who you are, and we're not proud of how we handled any of it." I stared at her, not in anger, but in exhaustion. There was a difference. "You didn't just forget me," I said finally. "You rearranged reality to fit a version without me in it, like I was an inconvenience that didn't match the aesthetic." Callista flinched. Tears rolled silently. Velda reached for her daughter's hand, but even that looked hesitant, like she wasn't sure she deserved to comfort anyone anymore. I didn't reach back, not out of punishment, but protection. This was never about revenge. It was about remembering who I was before I kept being told to shrink. We sat like that for a long moment. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. "This wasn't about a trip," I said, setting my mug down. "It was about the roles we all agreed I'd keep playing. Organizer, problem solver, emotional landfill." I stood. "And I won't play them anymore." Velda opened her mouth, but I lifted a hand. "Don't apologize if it's just to clear your conscience. You don't need to say the words. You need to do the work." She nodded. Callista wiped her face. Mascara smudged along her cheekbone. I walked to the door and opened it. Velda looked up, voice small. "Can we try again?" I didn't move from the threshold. I didn't soften. "That depends," I said, my voice calm. "On whether you're ready to meet the real me, not the version who fixes everything." It had been a quiet week. Not peace, just quiet. The kind where the air finally settled, not because the storm passed, but because I'd left its path. I deleted shared calendars, removed myself from group chats, tossed out the old travel binders I used to keep organized in my hall closet, rearranged furniture, not because the space needed it, but because I needed something in my life to look different, feel different. Some people clean to find peace. I cleaned to confirm I survived. It was nearing sunset. the sky melting into a wash of soft purples and ash blues, when I heard it. A knock. Not rushed. Not angry. Just uncertain. I walked to the door and opened it. Velda stood there in the rain, soaked through. No umbrella, no coat. Just a letter in her hand and an expression I hadn't seen on her face in years. Humility. "I'm not here to explain," she said, her voice shivering more than her body. "Just to give you this." She handed me the letter, stepped back into the hallway, and didn't wait for me to respond. She left, heels clicking down wet concrete, the kind of retreat you don't interrupt. I stood at the doorway until the hall lights clicked on, signaling night. Back inside, I peeled open the envelope. It was handwritten, Velda's unmistakable cursive, slightly shaky but still deliberate. "You were never the problem. You were the backbone," and I cracked it. There were no excuses, no plea for forgiveness, just the kind of honesty that takes a person decades to write. She didn't sign it Mom, just her full name, like a statement in court. I folded the letter carefully, slid it between the pages of a book I hadn't touched in years, and sat by the window. My phone buzzed. A message from Callista. "Mom's trying. I don't know if I can, but I won't lie to people about what happened anymore." I stared at the text for a long time, then screenshot it and archived the conversation. No response necessary. I didn't need anything else from her. 2 days later, I attended a panel at a local conference. The topic: burnout and boundaries among high-achieving women. I didn't plan on speaking, but during the Q&A, something nudged me forward. I stood, told a story, left out names, left out specifics, but told the truth. About being the one who plans, the one who remembers every detail, the one whose love is shown through action, while everyone else poses for pictures. The room was silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. I ended with this: sometimes, peace doesn't come from being understood. It comes from refusing to be misdefined. That evening, I walked home. It rained again. I didn't open my umbrella, didn't speed up my pace. Let each drop roll over me, rinse whatever residue still clung to the past. They'll keep knocking. I just don't live behind that door anymore.